So we are here, we have finally reached the end of another season in the Championship. It has been a cracker of a season, to be fair, but we've still got a bit to play for going into the final weekend being played on Sunday. We've still got the title to decide and the race for the top 6 as well, and we got some tricky games to predict, so I'm interested to see what you guys are saying for the final weekend. So as always, all this weekend's games will be in the description down below so that you guys can easily go ahead and make your score predictions there. If you manage to get any of them correct, your comment will be included at the start of the next video. I just wanted to say a massive thank you for you guys for all the support you've shown throughout the season. It really has been a good one to cover this year. But without further ado, let's hop into my score predictions. And starting it out with Aston Villa going up against Norwich City. Norwich only needing 1 point to go ahead and wrap up the league title. Are they going to do it? It's a tough game going away at Villa Park. I find this to be quite a difficult game to predict though without seeing both teams' lineups. I would expect Aston Villa to make a few changes going into this one. They're guaranteed to finish 5th. They can't finish any higher or lower than that. So the logic would be to rest some of your key players going into the playoffs. You know, the likes of Grealish, maybe Abraham and some of their back line would be rested for this one to make sure everyone's going in for full fitness going into the playoffs. They're going up against a Norwich side who, you know, they're probably still going to be hungover going into this weekend. So I don't think that either side is going to be playing at their peak for this game. Villa aren't going to make it easy, but in a lot of these games, I can see a few goals being scored in this one. I think I can see this being quite an open game of football. And I'm going to predict it to finish as, I'm going to say a 2-2 draw that would give Norwich the title. I don't think they'll go to Villa Park and rock up and be maybe as fluid as they have been throughout the season, because I think it would have been quite a heavy week for the players. But even so, I'll say 2-2. Thief is going to say 0-0. I'm interested to know what you guys are saying for that one. And then we've got Blackburn going up against Swansea. An interesting fixture, this one. I also see this game being fairly open, actually. Swansea were involved in the game in midweek, a 1-1 draw against Derby County. For that reason, Blackburn could be a little bit more fresh for this one, having longer recovery time going into Sunday's match. Before the game Blackburn had last week against Norwich, they were coming off the back of a fantastic run, winning their previous 4 matches. Finishing the season off at home as well. I'm sure Tony Mowbray's going to want a performance from these players in this one. With neither side having anything to play for though, it's always a really tough game to predict this sort of one. I can see a few goals being scored as both teams have been looking fairly sharp in front of goal lately. I think I'll just maybe edge Blackburn for a 2-1 home victory, but with the way that Swansea are going at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they got something from this one. But I'll say 2-1 Blackburn. Thief is going to say 2-0 Blackburn. Tough game to predict. Then we got Brentford going up against Preston. Brentford find themselves in a really odd situation. They've sort of been caught in the middle of this whole fiasco going on around Bolton Wanderers. They have since been awarded all 3 points for that game as it won't be played, and they've been given a 1-0 victory basically for it. So with Brentford having last week off, I've got a feeling they'll be looking pretty sharp for this one. Preston defensively lately have been looking a little bit all over the place. Our games have been fairly open, but we have conceded 9 goals in our last 4 matches. And to put that into a bit of context, with Brentford, they've scored 7 goals in their last 3 home matches. So I do feel as if Brentford could go to town on us in this one a little bit. We have just been looking a little bit fragile in those areas lately. I don't think our record at Griffin Park is particularly good either. I remember a couple of seasons ago where we got absolutely dismantled by 5 goals to 0 there. So I don't know why, I'm just not very confident going into this one. Preston's last game was a 3-3 draw against Sheff Wednesday, and although we weren't great at the back, we did create some good chances going forward. You know, Alan Brown got back on the score sheet. Callum Robinson was looking fantastic for that game. If you do believe the rumours, this could be Callum Robinson's last game for Preston as well. I hope that's not the case, but I've just got a bit of a bad feeling for this one. I'm going to say that Brentford will walk away with all 3 points with a 3-1 victory in this game, with Thief saying it'll be 2-1 Brentford. And then we got Derby going up against West Brom. Derby still having a lot to play for as they look to secure their place in the playoffs for this season. They're currently 1 point above Middlesbrough after a draw in midweek against Swansea City. They're going up against a West Brom side who have been looking fairly good lately, albeit it's a side who doesn't really have all too much to play for in this particular game. They're pretty much guaranteed to finish 4th now. Technically, they could still finish 3rd, but that would mean that Ipswich have to beat Leeds this weekend. I'm not sure how likely that is. So maybe for that reason, we could see West Brom making a couple of changes, similar to what I was saying about Aston Villa as well. They'll be wanting some of their key players to be going into the playoffs with full fitness. I get the feeling that Derby have come back into form at just the right point in time in the season. They are now unbeaten in their last 5 matches. They've been averaging over 2 goals a game in their last 5 games as well. Although I see this one being a fairly tight game, I've still got that feeling West Brom can be a little bit dodgy at the back sometimes, and for that reason, I'll just back Derby for a 2-1 home victory, although I could see West Brom maybe pulling something out of the bag depending on what they actually go for with their team lineup. But I'll say 2-1 Derby. Thief is going to say it'll be a 1-1. And then we got Hull going up against Bristol City. Bristol City just about managed to keep their top 6 hopes alive going into the final weekend with a 2-1 away victory victory over Millwall in midweek, turning that one around quite late as well with 2 quite quick-fire goals. For Bristol City to make it into the playoffs, this needs to be all 3 points against Hull. They also need Middlesbrough to drop points against Rotherham, and they need Derby to lose against West Brom. So quite a lot of things do need to go in Bristol City's favour, although that is quite doable, you know. It wouldn't be the most outlandish thing to think that that couldn't happen. And for that reason, Bristol City just need to have the mindset going into this game that all they can do is get 3 points from it. And it's not really a bad time to be playing Hull there without winning their last 4 matches. Their last game, they did have a decent comeback against Swansea City. I think it'll be a very close one, but I can see maybe Bristol City just edging this one by 2 goals to 1. FIFA also it'll be 1-0 Hull, but I think Bristol City may win this game, but I still don't think that'll be enough to get them in the top 6. And then we got Ipswich going up against Leeds United. The big news for Leeds coming into this one is that Patrick Bamford has received a 2-game ban after his antics against Aston Villa, so he will miss this game and the first leg of their playoff semi-finals. So even, you know, despite that, Leeds should be winning this game. You know, despite some of their results lately, though, without winning their last 3 matches, they should be, you know, rolling over Ipswich, really. I can just see it in my head now. I imagine Leeds are going to have about 80% possession in this one. They'll have about 40 shots or something like that as well, but they'll only end up winning it by 1-0 or something. But in all seriousness, I am interested to see how Bielsa approaches this game. It's going to be a fascinating playoff campaign. With all the sides in there, I think each team has got different qualities about them, and whoever does go on to get promoted, it's really going to be a fascinating watch this season. Leeds do still need a point to secure their 3rd place this season, with West Brom just 3 points behind them at the moment, and with them having a superior goal difference, but you would expect that to come in this game, and I'm going to back Leeds for a 2-0 away victory. With FIFA saying it'll be 3-0 Leeds. And then we have Nottingham Forest going up against Bolton Wanderers. We need to talk about the situation at Bolton for a bit, because everything's been a complete shambles at the moment. When I'm recording this video, the story's constantly changing, but Bolton have said that the takeover deal from Bassini is now off. Bassini's been saying that he's actually now in control of the club, so there's really contrasting reports going on at the moment, but the EFL have said that Bassini hasn't provided the proof of funds, so he won't be taken over, and administration still looks like it's going to be a real possibility for Bolton now, you know. With the game against Brentford being called off, them having to forfeit the game, I honestly can't remember the last time that happened, and there's no doubt, you know, there's going to be serious consequences for Bolton going into next season in League One. So for that reason, the football really doesn't really matter for Bolton in this one, you know. They've got their minds on other things at the moment. I've got no idea what sort of team Phil Parkinson is going to field for this one, but you get the impression that Forest could have an absolute field day with this one. It's not really been in Forest nature to absolutely steamroll teams under Martin O'Neill so far, although they did put 3 goals past Middlesbrough, but for this one, I'm going to back Nottingham Forest for a 5-0 home victory. I can honestly see something like that occurring for this one, and I really do feel for Bolton at the moment, but I'll say 5-0 Forest. FIFA's going to say it'll be 2-0 Forest. And we've got Reading going up against Birmingham with neither side having anything to play for. I wouldn't be surprised if both managers make a couple of changes for this one as well. Birmingham have drawn 4 of their last 5 matches, and Reading have drawn 3 of their last 5, and for that reason, I can maybe see this game heading in a similar direction. Games like this are always really topsy-turvy ones, you know, because it's the last day of the season. We could see an absolute goal fest in this one, and on the flip side of that one, we could have one side absolutely run away with it if, you know, the other side is already got their feet up on the beach now. With Reading being at home, though, they want to put on a performance for their fans. Birmingham have been no mugs lately in the league, but I think I can see this one heading level. I'll say it'll finish as a 1-1 draw, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Reading. And then we got Rotherham going up against Middlesbrough, with the away side still having everything to play for as they go ahead and hunt down the top 6 going into the final weekend. They are currently 1 point behind Derby, so they would be relying on Derby dropping points this weekend, but they are going up against the West Brom side, so that is very possible. So Borough just need to focus on themselves for this game. It's not the easiest game in the world, even though Rotherham have been relegated. I still think they'll have a bit of fight about them. The problem with Rotherham lately has been they can't hold on to a lead. In their last 3 matches, they've scored first, and they've ended up losing all 3 of those games. They'll want to end the season on a high, but honestly, in this sort of game, I'm not sure I can see all too many goals being scored. I think it'll be quite a close game, where either a set piece or a ball coming into the box wins it for either side. I can see it maybe being a little bit scrappy. The game's bogged down in midfield for a bit of this one, but with Borough needing the points more, I think I'll just edge them for a 1-0 away victory, and depending on the Derby result, that may or may not be enough to get them into the top 6. So I'll say 1-0 Borough. FIFA's going to say it'll be a 1-1. And then we've got Sheff Wednesday going up against QPR. Wednesday have been involved in some cracking matches lately. Thinking back to the 2-2 draw they had against Norwich, and then last week they had a 3-3 draw with Preston off end. Some of the games have really been thrillers lately. It's probably not been that big of a surprise that ever since Westwood has been injured, they have been leaking a few more goals, and QPR could maybe get a bit of joy from that. QPR lately have been faltering in front of goal. I'm not sure how they didn't manage to score against Forest last week. They had over 20 shots in that game, but nothing was hitting the back of the net for them for that one. So maybe QPR will turn their fortunes around a little bit this one, with Sheff Wednesday looking a little bit more open at the back, but scoring goals hasn't been the problem for this Wednesday side lately. Forestieri finds himself banging form towards the end of the season, as does Barry Bannon, who's also been scoring some terrific goals lately. I think this one's going to be a really entertaining game to finish the season off for both sides. I'm going to just back Sheff Wednesday for a 3-2 home victory, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Wednesday. And then we've got Stoke going up against Sheffield United, with United still having a fantastic shot at going for the title, with them having the superior goal difference against Norwich. If Norwich are to lose against Villa, which is very possible this weekend, and Sheffield United pick up all 3 points, they will be going up as champions. So I'm sure Chris Wilder has that in the front of his mind at the moment, although I'm sure it's been, once again, I said it for Norwich, I'm sure it's been a heavy week for the players with them celebrating. And going away to Stoke as well isn't the easiest fixture you want to be coming up against, you know. Stoke have been involved in more goalless draws than anyone else in the league so far this season, and could I see this one heading in a similar direction? Maybe. I'm not sure how shocked the Sheffield United side will be. If United are to win this one, I don't think it'll be by a landslide or anything like that. I think it'll just about be by 1 goal or so. But I just think it'll be typical of Stoke to finish their season off with a goalless draw, and I'm not sure how Sheffield United are going to approach this game. They've been defying odds all season, so they probably will go on to win this one, but I've just got a feeling in the back of my mind this one's going to win goalless. So I'm going to back it to finish as another 0-0 draw for Stoke, with FIFA saying it'll be 2-0 to the home side. And then to finish things off, we've got Wigan going up against Millwall. Wigan find themselves in a brilliant run of form at the moment. They're unbeaten in the last 4 matches, and Paul Cook can probably find himself quite unlucky to not have been awarded the Manager of the Month award with some of the huge results they picked up in the last few weeks. Also, their home record is worth noting. They are now unbeaten in their last 9 home matches, so Millwall will probably struggle a little bit going into this one. Millwall also may feel a little bit more jaded, as they did have a game in midweek on Tuesday, a 2-1 defeat against Bristol City. With neither side having anything to play for though, I'd like to see a bit of football between them, and I think that Wigan are definitely capable of that. Millwall at times can string some things together, but there's just been too many inconsistencies threaded throughout their season. For that reason, and looking at their impressive home record, I think that Wigan will end the season on a high, and with how they've been doing lately, I think they'll just about get past Millwall with all 3 points and with a 2-1 home victory, with FIFA saying this one will be 2-0 to Wigan. But guys, there you have it. There are my championship score predictions for the final weekend. So if all my predictions do come true, that will mean that Norwich do go on to win the league this year, and Derby County will be the side finishing in the playoffs. So do let me know down below if you agree with my score predictions. Who do you think is going to win the league, and how do you think your side will do on the final weekend? But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching. So if you did go in to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, just thank you for all the support you've shown on all the videos throughout the season. It really does mean a lot. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.